are we trying to play God with some of these things? I just read recently that they were just successful in basically customizing, I want to say, a child's DNA, like so that people could literally order the type of child they want. I mean, I feel like that's where we're going. And that really does, in my judgment, border on like, oh, we're going into like really scary territory.
I agree with you. I think that it's a slippery slope. I think that a lot of the biohacking 1.0 is about bringing us back to nature or using technology to bring back elements of nature into our life that we've lost. It's not going to replace getting out into nature, but it's helping me to mitigate my reality of being inside in front of a computer for too many hours a day. I recently interviewed a woman by the name of Liz Parrish. She's part of a group of people that absolutely are in a world of delaying death, extending vitality as long as humanly possible. And she's herself has done 4 different types of gene therapy on herself, and she looks the part, not going to lie, but is showing that it's actually slowing down her aging. You can see it in her labs, in her blood work, in her performance. What's interesting about the work that she does is in shooting for this extreme longevity, let's call it, what's happening is that a lot of health issues that have been considered unsolvable could get solved along the way. So things like type 1 diabetes. At a conference I was at recently, she showed a video of a child who I believe had muscular dystrophy. It was a genetic disorder. He was trying to climb a set of stairs. There was no way he was getting up these stairs. They administered a gene therapy to this child. 3 months later, the next video is this kid running up the stairs. That is life-changing. I think when she first started what she was doing, it was because her son had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and she wanted to solve that. And she realized very quickly that solving for disease was complicated, it was expensive, and it was really heavily regulated. So she moved into this kind of longevity space. But as she explains, you get to solve a lot of health problems when you start to change the way the genes are expressing, like a telomerase gene. Telomerase is the enzyme that protects the ends of your DNA, your telomeres, helping them to replicate appropriately. If you can solve for telomerase, is it possible that that gene therapy could be part of a solution for children who are born with a genetic disorder called progeria? It's a complicated disease, and it's very unlikely that one gene therapy is going to actually solve the whole problem. But these are kids who start aging kind of like at 5 times the normal rate the day that they're born. So that by the time they're 20 years old, not only do they die, but they've died of all these chronic age-related illnesses that people suffer. So their arteries harden, their skin wrinkles, they shrink, they lose bone density, like all the things happen to them at this crazy accelerated rate. I think that that application of gene therapy is unbelievable and could really be massively impactful to people suffering from really horrible diseases. She even has one for cognition, which could be very helpful for people experiencing cognitive decline or dementia or neurodegenerative diseases. Now, this is all work that's ongoing, so I'm not saying she has the solutions yet. As far as creating a designer baby with gene therapy, I think we're crossing the line. That's my personal opinion. It's one thing if you're able to analyze a genome of a fetus and say, oh, this kid's heading for trouble. What if you could control for Lp(a) or something? Prevent this child from having a cholesterol problem for their whole lives. But when you start choosing eye color, hair color, height, aesthetic features, physical ability, that kind of stuff, this is me. Many people could disagree with me, but to me, we're crossing the line. We're denying ourselves the breadth and depth of what humanity is supposed to be.
To that point, one could argue that these kind of contrasts, what some people would look at as issues that people have, now whether they're caused from the toxicity of our present day or just it's part of life, how sometimes genetics just you pop out something that's a little off or different. Sometimes it's these differences that, and this is getting a little spiritual, but it's like that maybe that soul needs in this lifetime, that kind of esoteric kind of thing. Who are we to kind of look at that and say, well, no, that's wrong or right? But I hear what you're saying is like, look, if this is what we're given right now because of how life is, then and we can solve and fix it, why wouldn't we? But the thing that pops up for me is I think about, like, for example, the poultry industry. They cage the birds, they keep them in these confined places where they were pecking each other or themselves, right? Instead of saying, oh, well, maybe they don't do well in these tight confined spaces, they cut off the beaks.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And to me, that is kind of what we're doing, is like, we're not going, hey, maybe we should rethink how we're doing this because it's resulting in continued chronic illness or this or that. And I know that people say, well, we don't know for sure. Clearly, there's more issues popping up than there used to be, I think, right? I mean, it's not just that we have more testing, is it?
No, I think there's a difference between a kid that's born with muscular dystrophy or a child who has type 1 diabetes. I mean, maybe there's something in the environment that's causing these genetic mutations. I don't know. But these are not lifestyle diseases. I think that if you were the parent of one of these kids and somebody said to you, we can help your child to live a normal, healthy life that is not filled with suffering.
Yeah, you take it.
You'd take it. And I mean, is there on a spiritual level, if that soul came back under those circumstances? I mean, if you believe in those things and if you've read up about it, sometimes it's a lesson that soul needs to learn. It's something that soul chose. Sometimes it's to teach the people around them certain lessons. Are we interfering with that? Heck yeah. I don't have the answer to that. I can only tell you that as a parent, if I had the choice between watching my child suffer and live a life of suffering, and if I could end that suffering somehow by making them healthier, I probably wouldn't care so much about anything else.
It wouldn't be about the gray area. It would be about what works, what doesn't
work. What can I do to help that child? You know, these are very good questions and they're good things to think about. I mean, there's no doubt that we're already in a world where technology is starting to outstrip our ability to balance the ethics of what we can do with what we should do.
Very well said.
I would never pretend to have the answer to that. I mean, maybe it's part of the human evolution. I mean, who knows? You know, maybe part of our journey to as a species is to learn to solve these problems. And these people have come along with these problems all along to help us to get to a place where we can solve them. Maybe.
We could philosophize all we want, but the reality is like the parent that's dealing with it, they want the result now. They want help now. It's not about
they want their child not to suffer. You know, they want their child to be able to run and play, have a normal life. That fundamentally is what we all hope for.
If you enjoyed the clip from the podcast, make sure to check out the next video up here or head over to watch the full episode down here. And before you go, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Come on. Yeah, thanks for watching.